Yo, what is up, everybody? Project Itachi here with my co-host Warners. Welcome back to another episode of the GZ Chop Shop podcast. As you can probably tell from listening, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm in a different situation right now. If you guys have been keeping up, there's been a lot of things going on my end. We've got the house getting worked on. So I finally had to give up my room studio for a night, but I didn't want to not record. So this is a very unique situation. I hopefully this is a one-time thing.
Man looks like he's about to start asking for demands. Do you ever want to see your sister again? This is not the ideal setup that I had planned.
It's a prequel to Saul for a podcast. I for real. I literally busted out. This isn't Project Itachi. This is back to Itachi 266. I took it back about a good 4 years. I busted out the old equipment, my old microphone, my old whole old setup, just so I could do this podcast. So hopefully my editing skills are on par, that it doesn't sound too different from what you guys are used to. But yeah, we're still going to kick off this episode. We got an amazing lineup as always. So without further ado, and before my setup decides to go kaput on me, Warners, what do we got this week?
Well, this week we are going to talk about Ubisoft's employee pushback. They're having similar issues that Activision-Blizzard had in the past and is still currently dealing with, but maybe not for long, depending on what happens there with Microsoft. And then we're going to touch on Cyberpunk, some changes coming out, updates, and they did a stream today as well. And then we're going to talk about the new RPG Maker Unity available through Steam. I'm really excited about these topics. Before we jump on these, I just want to briefly mention something because it's I just find it hilarious. I know, Itachi, you watch Attack on Titan. I think you read the mangas as well, and it's officially considered. I guess that whatever the voting system is, I'm not sure how it works, but it was decided that it was the most popular TV show, not just anime, TV show of 2022 so far, which is insane. And you know, I've been hearing a lot of complaints about the anime, just people saying it's mid, people comparing it to other shows. And you know, this is just my little soapbox here, but it's getting a little insane, a little wild how, you know, anime has only very recently become as easily accessible as it is now. And the animation is just, oh my God, amazing compared to even a few years ago. And I think a lot of that has to do with the popularity and the influx of money that these studio companies are getting because the audience is growing. So, you know, I don't know where it's coming from, but I'd really like to see the anime fan base be more united and be more excited that we have so much anime at our disposal. And honestly, I love Attack on Titan. It's rare to get an anime that has no fillers, for one, especially a shonen anime. No fillers, like that's insane.
Yeah,
like, oh, there's only 80 episodes. Yeah, because there's no fillers. But people,
there's no fillers.
And then, you know, you got people complaining about how long it takes for an anime to come out, yada, yada. I'm like, obviously, y'all aren't the same fan base when Dragon Ball Z was first being released. Because not only was there, 293 episodes, I think? It's like 291 or 293.
Yeah.
But at least 50 or 60% of Dragon Ball Z was just random off the wall shit that was not fighting. Like, actually the fighting was probably like 20%, but I don't know. That's just my 2 cents there. But you know, at the end of the day, Eren Yeager, attention all shoppers the world is now closed. He said, he announced his worldwide tour. He said, call me Mr. Worldwide. Dude said, welcome to the WWE, worldwide extinction. That man needs to chill. But anyways, yeah, I just want to see.
On Crunchyroll, they had a poll for the greatest protagonist for the year, and it was Eren Yeager. And then they had to vote for the greatest antagonist for the year. And Eren
I saw that.
I saw.
Didn't he actually win best protagonist?
I think he won best protagonist.
I think he won best protagonist, and I'm over here like a little confused. I'm like, I don't know, because I did read the manga. I finished it last like April or May when it finished. But it's definitely different. Like when you read it versus when you watch it come to life on screen. And when I read it, I was like, damn. But watching it and like it gives you a different emotion, like when it comes to life on screen and seeing it unfold and the music and all that. And animes have been known to ask the questions that make like the questions that make you like really like what, like I don't know how I feel about that. But the ethical questions that Attack on Titan puts before us is just insane. And the storyline, like hate it or love it, Attack on Titan is number one, number two for a reason. I say that because Demon Slayer is definitely up there in popularity as well for good reason. The animation is outstanding. But yeah, I just wanted to take a second to say that and to appreciate the storyline as well. I mean, that storyline is amazing. And you go back and watch or read, however you want to do it, prior stuff. And it's like the author was like foreshadowing all these things and talking about all these things before, like years before it even happened. There's literally subtle clues, because I think, isn't the name Jaeger, doesn't that mean monster or something? I believe that the name Jaeger actually has a different meaning. I was like, man, we really shouldn't be surprised at how Eren turned out. His name is literally Eren Jaeger. Right. Like, so we should not be surprised. And it just made me think like Pacific Rim, the Kaijus versus the Jaegers. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I was like, the context was there. We just totally just dismissed it. Little details. Completely dismissed it. But let's kick things off with completely dismissed it. Ubisoft. I said that completely wrong. I really overannounced that. Yes, Ubisoft. Ubisoft has never sponsored us. This dude can't even say our name right. Ubisoft. I got hit by a car about 2 summers ago, and I'm gonna ride that train till I die. Oh, no. If you don't know what I'm talking about, hit up our previous episodes from last year. We talk about it in depth. Just go. I think we covered at least once an episode at this point now. I will ride that train till I die. I got hit by a car 34 summers ago. Yep. Still messing with me. Fresh. But yeah, apparently there's Ubisoft, they're having so they've had similar allegations as Activision-Blizzard, going back as far as it was brought up in July of 2021, I believe. But we all know that it goes back way further than that. It always does. The allegations of sexual harassment, assault in the workplace. And Itachi, your memory is always better than mine. You're always remembering things that we've said before. We've talked about this. We predicted this rise in issues, this ripple effect in the gaming industry. Yeah. It was actually right after the Activision-Blizzard thing kicked off. I said, we're going to start seeing a ripple effect. And I said, the only problem with this ripple effect is it's not all going to be good natured. Does it need to happen? 100%. Absolutely. This stuff has to get rooted out. However, you're going to have weeds in your crops. There's going to be those that seep in for personal gain.
and they're going to mask it with a topic as heavy as this, especially where sexual harassment is involved, that's automatic taboo. Whether, it's proven or not proven, as soon as you get that label, it's game over. You've got the limelight on you. Everyone's going to side eye you. Things got to change. Things got to get fixed. Things are going to happen. And the only reason I think the Ubisoft situation has actually gone so much under the radar is because of just how big Activision-Blizzard is. And it's kind of been overshadowing Ubisoft. And in this regard, when I was reading the article, which is on Polygon, if you guys want to check out the article, you can just go to the Polygon website. It was saying that they actually, not long after the Activision-Blizzard thing kicked off, the Ubisoft case kicked off, and there is an organization, they call themselves A Better Ubisoft, and their whole goal is to improve the working conditions of their development studio. And I think they have almost 2,000 members in their cause. And they've actually have made demands for some of the changes. And I'll actually read these off once again from the Polygon website. These are the 4 demands that they've requested that Ubisoft implement. 1 is stop promoting and moving known offenders from studio to studio, team to team with no repercussion. This cycle needs to end. 2nd, we want a collective seat at the table to have a meaningful say in how Ubisoft as a company moves forward from here. 3rd, cross-industry collaboration to agree to a set of ground rules and processes that all studios can use to handle these offenses in the future. 4th, this collaboration must heavily involve employees in non-management positions and union representatives. Now, as I always say, as a budding entrepreneur, I have started to learn certain things to be on the lookout for. As just being a former employee, this all sounds amazing. Everyone would love a seat at the table. Everyone would love to have their voice heard. And I do think it's only fair, especially, overall, we're a democracy. We believe in voting. We believe in fair play. But when I was saying earlier about certain personal issues seating themselves in a bigger issue, I see some of that in some of their demands, and they're placed in the middle. So it's kind of like a sandwich. You don't realize what's in the middle until you get to it. So I'm going to assume, and it's like on the surface.
I'm going to assume here that out of these 4, you were also 3 of them were also seemed understandable. And then one of them stood out as being kind of ridiculous, which we want a collective seat at the table. And that is also the same one that stood out to me as, what do you have to bring to the table outside wanting to change how the system works and dealing with offenders and people who cause problems, break rules, harass others? Those are great things. Yeah, you definitely make changes that need to be made. But what do you as an individual, and there's a couple thousand of you, bring to the table that you feel will impact the company in such a positive way that your voice in that area matters? And I say it like that, because that's just true. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are probably going to think, they're like, well, these are the people that are actually in the, they're the actual workers. They're the down and dirty. They're going to know what we want. They're going to know the direction the company can go. You got to remember, the people who are actually running the company were probably those same people. And things change when people have power. Those people that you are sending to bat for you aren't always going to stay as pure and pro as you hope. They get that collective seat at the table, and you're thinking, okay, these are going to change things, but change what? What is the seat at the table going to do? If they want to have a say in the direction of the company, then Ubisoft is no longer Ubisoft. It's going to have to become a completely different thing. And I'm noticing a lot of problems now is, and this is not to disregard, employees in any workforce whatsoever, but the thing that you have to understand, and it sucks because there are so many corrupt CEOs that it paints a bad picture. A lot of people think we don't need CEOs, but you do. And the CEO needs people that know how companies operate, the ins and outs, how to handle, how to help them drive this vessel. And if you're going and saying the 1,000 of us need to have a say in this, that's 1,000 people pulling the company in different directions. Not all of you are going to unanimously agree on everything. You might in the beginning, but then when you are in that position, you see, oh, they're going to listen to us now. We outnumber them. We've scared them into giving us what I want. All of you are going to start wanting individual things because now you find this unfair to you and you want this to change and you want shorter working hours, but you want a bigger pay. All of these little nuances are going to start coming up and it's going to tear the company up from the inside. And then you're going to still meet resistance from the upper echelon of the company because they have to protect their assets. They got to protect their investments because the one thing that a lot of I want to say probably that the activists aren't realizing is you at the end of the day have to please your investors. Let's just say you flushed out all the upper echelon. You still have to answer to your investors. The money doesn't just come from nowhere. It comes from investors. It comes from your general public. So if you start displeasing your investors, they're going to pull their funding. And in turn, the consumers are going to jump ship because, as I've always said, we as humans, we have herd mentality. We don't always need to know what's going on. We just need to see 10 people bail ship and we bail with them. We don't even need to know what's up. We just say, oh, they're a bad guy. Okay, we're bailing too. Why? I don't know. Everyone else is doing it. And now you completely ruined your way of life. You've completely destroyed the company. So I feel that 3 of their demands absolutely make sense. The work environment needs to change. You should not be working in an environment that you do not feel safe, that you do not feel you are treated equally. That needs to be addressed. That needs to be handled. That does need to be brought to the limelight so it can't constantly be buried. So like I said, I agree with 3 out of the 4, but you can't tell me all 1,000 of those people have a business mindset to have a collective seat at the table. And also, I mentioned this before the podcast, and I wanted your thoughts on it, Warners. There was one line that stuck out to me that made me kind of like, that's why I said the collective thing didn't make sense to me. And I'm going to read the whole paragraph as I got it. A better Ubisoft felt that the video email from Grant, because there was a video email sent out after a survey was taken, was unsatisfactory as they felt the data was not analyzing the issues the employees were concerned about, which were that they felt they had to hide their true selves for fear of judgment or reprobation from peers or managers. The group then added the original demands at the end of this updated letter with the following points that I have read earlier. That line bothers me. It bothers me immensely. Hide their true selves. What does that mean? Yeah. Because I believe when you go to work, you're going there to work. Do you bring your personal life with you to work?
Well, like, I'm that can be taken that can be taken very negative ways too. Like we're talking about ultimately here. What we're talking about is sexual allegations and harassment. So when you come out with a statement like that, are you like, what's your angle there? Because in one point of view, it kind of contradicts what your cause is. Like, what do you mean hide your true selves? Like, are you saying you're for this on some level? Like that's how it kind of comes off from that perspective. And then another perspective is, trying to say like, well, we don't want these things, and we are trying to speak up and have a voice, but we're not being heard. We're not being allowed to do these things and be our true selves and, make committees and speak up, whatever the case is. So yeah, that is a weird statement to make. And that's the thing is some of these statements that and demands are almost like contextual. Like were they taken out of context, or were they just so vaguely demanded that they could be taken in any way? They're not very clear cut. Not really.
Yeah.
Like, what do you really want here?
It's posted on their Twitter. Yeah, it's posted on their Twitter, the exact wording, the exact letter that they posted.
Yeah, I see it
so
here.
Anybody can go and read it. But also on the Ubisoft front, they're not actually saints themselves, because apparently the 8-minute video that came from Anika Grant, they said the main issue the employee group found was that the 8-minute video was very brief, structured, and made it difficult to find and offer feedback on the video. And that the Grant revealed that 71% of employees feel comfortable being ourselves at work. And it seems like, to summarize, it seems like the survey they sent out probably was to benefit them. This way, it was a CYA situation. They were definitely going out of their way to cover their ass. They sent out the survey, and like you said earlier, they were saying we're not being heard. It was funny because Ubisoft basically replied in a video, "We see, we hear you." Literally those words, we heard you, we hear you. The basic corporate response.
Right.
And they said they sent out the survey with rooms for comments and stuff. But I'm pretty sure with all the surveys, when we were in the military, all the surveys that were taken out, especially during the time when they knew that there was a high stress across the board for military, the questions were very structured in the way they said, well, we sent out a survey to assess your stress, but they were so structured they weren't really asking the questions they knew people wanted asked.
Right.
They were structured in a way you could only give the answer they wanted.
Right. And that's, I've definitely experienced that myself in various workplaces.
Yeah. And I think that's the case. I think that's what Ubisoft did to combat the situation, because they crafted the survey to be favorable to them overall as best as they could. And when you present it probably before a court, it's like, well, this is what we presented in lingo, if they're checking all of their boxes that a corporate is required to check, it's going to look more favorable for them. It's going to be like, well, they're addressing it. They sent out a survey. These are pretty direct questions. That's probably what all that matters. They were direct questions, and it all worked out in their favor. So Ubisoft can say, well, we addressed it. Most of the people are happy. So why should we upset the system? And that's all they need. Quote unquote. If most of the people are happy, why should we meet any of these demands?
40 questions.
Because at the end of the day, yes, they're a developer.
40 questions is a lot of questions. Like, that seems like double the amount of questions you might normally ask. I've never received a survey from any place I've ever worked that was more than maybe 20 questions. It's almost like they were trying to overwhelm them with an insane amount of work to do. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds stressful. 40 questions.
And, and that probably was probably a technique, because you get this 40 question survey, which I'm pretty sure was mandatory given the situation. It works in their favor because and you brought up a good point, more work. So think about all the safety stand downs we had and how much we hated them. Somebody would get into an accident, one person, and the whole command has a safety stand down. We would be so frustrated at that one person for giving us all a stand down. Imagine being in a company, thousands of people having to basically do a safe workplace survey because this group of thousands of people have raised an issue. So maybe Ubisoft played this to their benefit and said, okay, well, you 1,000 are now going to tick off all of our Ubisoft globally, because they didn't send that survey just here. They sent that to all of their across the world, all their bases. So they all had to do that survey. So that probably annoyed the heck out of people. They probably did it. They sent it. And I think they said they sent it on a Friday. That probably ticked off so many people at the end of it. Because I think it's an article. They said they sent it at the end of a day on a Friday.
Hoping, honestly,
you're done with your work.
And it's probably due, Monday. And then like nobody does it because it's the weekend. Yeah. It's a tactic. Well, no, we didn't get the feedback.
It's a strong tactic.
We didn't get the feedback. Not enough people completed it.
Or if they mandatorily had to complete it, it ruined a lot of people's Fridays because it's like, hey, you can't leave until you finish that survey. Now you're stuck there for another hour because if they left comment sections under each, they probably said comments mandatory, leave your thought. So now these people are ticked. Why are we doing this? Oh, because 1,000 people for a better Ubisoft raised a complaint. Now, instead of joining their cause, you're ticked at them because you want to go home to your kids. It's a Friday. You told them we're going to catch a movie. Now you got to call them and say, no, I'm going to be late. Why? Well, I got to do this stupid survey. Now you're ticked at a cause because the company has twisted it in their favor. Now, this is just all hypothetical. There's no facts to back this up. But just looking at the numbers, 71% of the company says they're happy. Yes, they're. What's the best answer at the top? Because all surveys follow the same format. Top answer, good answer, bottom answer, bad answer. Top. Let me go home.
I wonder if I'm the only person that when I do take a survey and it has like a requirement that I to send it, I have to make a comment, that I go through every comment and just put period. I did that. I'm not saying I'm like, maybe I'm part of the problem. I did that with every shitty job I didn't care about. I'm like, I don't care. I like, pay me so I can go home. I don't like, I'm here. This is a business transaction. Give me my money. I don't care. I'm leaving. Thank you. I did my best. You pay me what you say.
Yeah.
Then when I became a nurse, I started actually participating more since it's my career and I enjoy it. I'm on committees and stuff, which, by the way, that's another thing that I'd like to know. They're asking for committees basically. And like, as a nurse, okay, my hospitals has 17, 18, 19, sorry, 22 units, I think 22 separate units. Each unit has their own committees for different things for the personnel that work on those units specifically. And there's various committees that you can join and for all different things. And that makes me wonder, like, were they not doing that to begin with? Certainly any prosperous business has committees that anyone's welcome to volunteer to be a part of and be a voice in said topic, whatever that thing is, safety or, whatever. I don't know what else is out there. I've been a nurse for 7 years. Everything's just healthcare to me, but
this is all health. I think they have unions, but I know unions operate a little differently.
I have my,
it just seems like they want them to be more involved. So
I didn't know there were like any gaming industry like studios that were under a union.
I honestly, until I read this, I didn't either. For some reason, I thought like when you work for a game developer, you were totally like covered under everything. But then when I think about it, I'm like, well, you know what? I guess it would make sense that there probably is a union for some of them, because when they started out, it was probably like 5 people in a garage somewhere. So it was like, as they grew,
a lot of studios started off that way.
As they grew, then, they probably found it more affordable to, let people just be part of unions and stuff. So they didn't have to worry about that. And then the money coming in can go to the business. So, but yeah, the very interesting topic. Would definitely love your guys' feedback on it. What do you guys think? If you've been keeping up with it and you have some information that we're not aware of, please let us know. Because like I said, we foresaw this. We knew that the ripples were going to start happening. It's going to be the big studios. And then as other industries come up, as the indie developers come up, this is a never ending ripple now. Like, this is not going to stop. It's going to keep going forever. Like, we're in that era where this kind of thing, it's not going to stop. And like I said, I'm not saying that like, oh, well, should it be buried? Absolutely not. I'm just saying that not all the causes are as genuine as they seem. There's going to be a lot of people that just use it for gain because, like I said, it's a very touchy topic that nobody wants to address, and they just want to please the masses without full on evidence. Because literally a lot of these things are hearsay. And to be completely honest, when you look at it, and you read into it, it's a lot of this person said, and then maybe the proof doesn't come out until decades later. Or I think a lot of the times in legal cases, the lawyer just says, look, you're just better off saying you did it. Everyone already thinks you did it. They're not going to change their mind. Just fess up, sum up some money, retire quietly, and live out your life in peace. And I think, honestly, I think that happens more often than not, which is why you're going to start seeing probably on a yearly basis another company, especially in the gaming industry, because it's a booming industry. Do we even know a total dollar amount? It's like one of the highest media entertainment. It is the highest media entertainment globally. There is money in it. And it really, really sucks because the people that actually need the help, that are actually being treated unfairly, I still don't think are the ones that are being heard. And their cause is being used for a monetary gain. And it really sucks because the people who set up these organizations to help these employees, they're not going to be able to tell the difference. They're not going to be able to separate it, because if you isolate anyone, they're automatically whew, man, you're setting yourself up for a trap. It's game over. So, it really sucks, but we're going to see this start popping up a lot, because right now it's Activision-Blizzard, it's Ubisoft, even Sony. I mean, it's under the radar for now, but there was that big thing with one of the top corporate heads with Sony dealing with, I think it was trafficking.
Yeah, it was
some kind of prostitution.
He was trying to get underage girls.
Solicit, yeah. So like I said, and then that, yeah. So yeah, this is probably going to be on a yearly basis. We're going to be seeing this. Heavy topic, but we would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. So hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you think about the Ubisoft situation. Do you agree with all the demands? Do you not agree with all demands? Do you agree with us? Disagree with us? Get a conversation going. So let us know. Hit us up on Twitter at the GZ Chop Shop. We want to know your thoughts. All right, moving on to our next topic.
Cyberpunk changes.
Oof.
That's right.
Oh, my heart hurts. So let me just start this off. By saying I forgot I own Cyberpunk.
I did too.
If that tells you anything.
I did too. Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk
forgot.
Had so much. It's okay. Cyberpunk is a good game. It is an enjoyable game. But because of the issues at launch and all the issues that came with it going on to the older consoles, which most of us still have because no one can get a PS5, it really broke the game. How long did it take them? They took it off PlayStation Network or the PlayStation Store within weeks, and it took them almost 6 months before they put it back.
Before they brought it back.
Yeah. So what are they going to be doing differently? What is going on here that makes me want to try to play this game again?
Okay. So in a nutshell, and I'm going to say something afterwards that's going to piss off a lot of my fellow gamers. And you know what? You need to be pissed off because we're part of the problem. And I'm throwing myself in the category because I'm guilty of it too. So they're finally updating it for the next gen consoles. They showcased some PS5 and Xbox Series X gameplay. They're finally releasing some of that promised free DLC. And they're remapping some of the things in the game that didn't handle well, such as the driving. That thing was worse than GTA. So they're fixing the driving, they're remodeling the driving, and the free DLC is coming out for all the consoles. They're not excluding the older gen consoles. All that stuff is coming. What I see happening with Cyberpunk, and one reason I'm glad I held on to it, I do see Cyberpunk pulling a No Man's Sky. It has the potential for that. However, in honor of Byrne, however, comma, that is not a motto game should be following, but it's a trend that has started and it really bothers me. It's almost like I can't tell if you did it by accident or you're doing it on purpose now. Because then they're like, oh, we're giving you free DLC. And this is where they get that renewed faith in their, their brand. With No Man's Sky, Scott took on he bit off more than he could chew. And he finally said, all right, you know what? I'm going to use the money you guys gave me and I'm going to give you the game I promised. It's going to take me like 7 years to do it, but I'm going to do it. And he went about it and he did it. He did us right, but late, when he should have done it from the start as he promised. I'd rather you sell me something under promised and then surprise me with better features than over promise, because like I said, everyone knows 80%, almost 80% of a gaming budget goes into marketing. So they have, all these trailers made, all this hype built up, and then none of the money goes into the game. So then we get the game and we're like, what the heck is this? Now, on the flip side, this is where I'm going to piss off my fellow gamers. Cyberpunk releasing in the condition that it did. I'm sorry, Nakia Nightshade, good friend of ours. I know she was super hyped for Cyberpunk. She's probably going to disagree with this if she listens to this episode. I'm sorry. We still love you. We're at fault for part of the reason it released the way it did. We are at fault. And the reason I say this, put your pitchforks down, everybody, and hear me out. For a long time, a lot of people don't remember this or they're having selective memory. For a long time, CD Projekt Red would take to Twitter and say the game was not ready. And a few times they said, we would like to just release it on next gen. And the feedback they got, the backlash was so harsh, they pretty much got pressured because they kept pushing it back, because it was supposed to come out before 2020. They already pushed it back like 2 times. People were getting ticked. I think investments might have been getting pulled, but they were saying it's not ready. This is a next gen game. I'm like, this is a next gen game. The scope, the vision we have, it's just not for this hardware. We should just wait. And this also tells me another topic for later. They knew, Sony and Xbox, as they always do, they knew a new console was going to come out. This tells you that, little tip of information here. When the PS4 and the Xboxes, they hit the shelves, they are already out of date. I know that's going to piss people off. PS5 is already outdated. As soon as it hits the shelf, this is any tech, honestly, as soon as it hits the shelf, it is outdated. They are already working towards the next model. When it hits the shelf, we're thinking it's the latest and greatest. No, for them, it's already outdated. We built it. We put it out there. It's outdated. Boom. Cool. Go. Why do you think new versions always come out 2-3 years later? Because they were already working on it by the time they put the original one on the shelf. Look at all the PS systems that come out. The big one, the original, the Slim, a Pro. They usually come in sets of 3s because they're already working on the next one. And, everyone's talking about like the PS5, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, they're already working on the Pro. Give it like another year or two. The concept is built. They're just waiting for the proper time to launch it. You guys are going to think, oh yeah, it was time. No, they were working on it the day the PS5 launched. So CD Projekt Red obviously knew this. And they said, let's just wait for the next graphics cards, the next gen consoles. It sucks we announced it now. Let's just wait. The gamers were not having that. We were like, we want it now. You promised. We want it now. And I'm pretty sure they were like, okay, but look at No Man's Sky. Look at, games that got canceled that were ahead of their time and it just couldn't happen. They said, hey, let's wait. And then everyone said, all right, well, we're bored. We're not interested in your game anymore. And I can think of like one game off the side of my head, Tiberium. If nobody knows that title, that proves my point. It was on the cover of a Game Informer, slated to be one of the best multiplayer shooters of all time. It looked fantastic. And then it just fell off the face of the earth. Just gone. To this day, nobody knows what happened to it. Just gone. You don't believe me? Look it up. And I think CD Projekt Red was just trying to avoid that same situation by being open with everyone. Look, it's not ready. I'm pretty sure if you scroll back, and I know you Twitter warriors that scroll back into Twitters from 10 years ago, take a chance to scroll back in some healthy tweets and you'll see where CD Projekt Red was saying, before Twitter went public, and they were saying it's not ready. But everyone wanted it now. So then they said, okay, we'll put it on the PS4. We'll put it on the Xbox One. We'll release it. Have at it. And then when we got it, we were pissed. And at this point, CD's like, we told you it wasn't ready. What did you expect? But this is also a case of it is a customer to a provider. And in customer service, what is the number one rule? Customer is always right.
I hate that so much. The customer. And I hate that. I hate that saying because the customer's not always fucking right. They're not.
Yeah.
There's some stupid ass customers out there.
But they all know that rule though. They all know that rule.
I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to get mad.
But that's what I think.
Because you're right.
That's what I think happened.
We did this to ourselves. And it's gotten worse over the past several years. The greater technology has gotten, the more interconnected and the more accessibility we've had to immediately communicate to these businesses and studios and with each other. Mm-hmm. It's the amount of just whining and complaining and wanting things immediately, no matter how transparent, which they are under no obligation to be transparent with us. The fact that they do that, to me, is a good sign from a studio that they want to give me a good game. If they're being transparent with me and saying, hey, something's not ready, we want to give you a good game, give us time. I think that's a great thing because they're not trying to give us garbage. So why push it so hard? Like, why? I don't understand it.
My other thing is, I'm like, and this is just my own personal gripe. How uneventful is your life that you can't wait another year for a game? You cannot tell me that if you're that hardcore of a gamer, you can't find you. I'm assuming most of you work normal 9 to 5. That's a good majority of your day. If you're a family person, you're definitely going to rest of your time is with family. So you probably have on average 2 hours a day, if not just 2 hours a week to game. And even if you say, okay, and even if you're a full-time streamer, the percentage of actual full-time streamers, full-time content creators is far smaller than we care to believe. That can actually turn it into, that is their job, that is their career. So it's not like 90% of the population doesn't have something else to do. Like, come on, there's got to be something else you can do. Time flies now as it is. I'm like, another year, another 2 years waiting on a game to get a good game. I'll take my chances. And granted, there's sometimes where it's a letdown, but I don't think it's so much that the game itself is a letdown. It's just people lost interest. And a good example of that is Kingdom Hearts 3. I didn't think Kingdom Hearts 3 was a bad game. I just think they did take way too long to release it because the fan base, we were kids when Kingdom Hearts came out. And then we were teenagers when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. But now we were family. We had our own families by the time Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. So at that point, you're appealing to an audience that didn't even know about 1 and 2. So at that point, okay, we might have taken too long. Same thing with Duke Nukem. Like, I do feel you can only push it so far, but Cyberpunk wasn't that old. It's not that old yet. And who they're appealing to would still be in the age range to play it.
Yeah, I guarantee you if
all Halo 2 was a little more time.
If Halo 2 took 10 years to come out with a sequel, or for Halo 2 to drop, Halo would not be the universe and the world that we know today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think a game should take 10 years. I do agree with that. I don't think it should take 10 years, but Cyberpunk was not anywhere in that time frame. I think at most it was probably hitting its halfway point. And it wasn't like they didn't have, playable. It wasn't like not playable. It was in a playable phase. They just wanted to put it on the hardware they knew could handle it.
Well, what's funny to me
I think we should have let them have it.
They say that they wanted to update the game for next gen, yet the game upon release was already so demanding graphically that it was shutting down people's consoles. And that's not even with the 4K that they're releasing now. So that's wild. Like we're trying to make it for the next gen when really it was already made for next gen.
Yeah. So in this case, and I know a lot of people are feeling like the update stuff is overhyped with Cyberpunk because, they're playing catch up right now to create the game that we were promised. I feel that Cyberpunk is going to come up on its second win. It's going to become the game. It's going to become the game for the times. It's going to become the game that everyone was expecting it to be. It's just going to take time to get there. But like I said before, I don't like this new trend that happens now where games do that, where they make it the game we should have got years later. Because if that's the case, then I feel like it's a weird setup. Because I pay you full price up front for this game, but you don't give me the full game until years later if I'm even still playing it. But on the flip side, if I say, well, how about I just pay you over the time until you give me the full game and then I give you the full money, then it's like, oh, wait, we're already in that phase. It's called subscription-based service. So I'm like, oh, man, it's a lose-lose no matter how you look at it. So it's like, okay, do I pay for the incomplete game now, or do I pay for the incomplete game over time via subscription-based service? So, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Personally, I will say the updates made me curious to pick up Cyberpunk again. The only reason I didn't was because it was bricking systems for a little while. So I was a little scared. But the time I spent with Cyberpunk, I loved it.
Oh, it's a good game.
I was exploring the world. Yeah, I was exploring the world. I was side questing. I was making my VOP. I mean, I had some cool stuff. The only thing I didn't like about the game was the driving mechanics. The driving mechanics drove me insane. I was like, I won't floor it, but if I floor it for like 2 seconds, I'm crashing. So
when earlier GTA games have better driving mechanics than a new gen game.
Yeah, I'm like, look, CD Projekt Red, you're a well-known developer. We all know about the hidden feature you guys can put in games that keep cars on course. Add that for the love of everything to Cyberpunk, or like modulate the speed or something. Like, we know about the hidden features in video games.
It's either 0 or 100. There's no in between.
There's no in between.
There's just go or hope you don't. There's don't move or hope you don't crash.
I was like, Cyberpunk was the first game that forced me to follow the in-game traffic laws. I stopped at red lights because I just didn't want to nick my car. I was like, and then when I only flirted when I was in the desert. That was the only time I could flirt.
So you could drive off.
I could just drive off.
Leave her in the
but
dust.
When I was in the city, but I have to wonder, maybe they made the driving mechanics so rough so that you would appreciate the scenery a little more. So you weren't just speeding through, because there's a lot of detail when you could see it, and it wasn't going Nintendo 64 for, some poor souls that were playing it on the OG PS4. It's a beautifully designed world. So much details. I had nostalgia when I went into Chinatown. I was seeing it. Cyberpunk actually motivated me to get a cyberpunk theme world in my Oculus, because it was just, I felt at home in the world of Cyberpunk. It was so beautifully designed. The character, pedestrian interactions, the city felt alive. It felt like it was a living, breathing city. I, for one, would have loved if they kept the VR concept. 100% would have loved it. I think the reason they took it out, other than technical issues, which once again, I think when the PS5 releases their VR, I think they would bring it back. But they didn't want to leave a lot of people out. People who didn't have VR.
People having VR is catching on fire. No, the demanding games.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Oh man, they didn't want they didn't want to, because in Cyberpunk, they probably were like, maybe this is a bad idea. You're wearing a VR headset, and then in Cyberpunk, you see someone, you can fry someone's brain chip who's wearing a visor, and it's like, man, that really looks like someone wearing a VR headset. Huh. It's like, you don't want that happening in real life. So, I feel like there was more to it than that. But me personally, I'm kind of a little bit excited for the Cyberpunk updates, even if they seem a little overhyped. It gives me reason to go back. Let's see what they fix and give them time. And I think the game will be what it should have been. So.
Well, speaking of games and gaming studios and developers, there is a new RPG maker coming to Steam. Unity.
Yes. Okay. So for everybody who knows, and if you haven't already, make sure you go check out our Patreon. There's all the details about it. We are officially in the midst of developing our own video game, our very first video game, with smaller games coming out along the way. So being that we've gotten into game development, I've become extremely fascinated with the software used by some of my favorite Patreon creators for their own games. And one of the ones that always came up was RPG Maker. And anyone who knows, RPG Makers come out kind of like Maddens. Like every 2 or 3 years, a new RPG Maker drops. Because I was introduced to RPG Maker back when Ace, and it was like Ace and then Ace VX and then MX, I think. And then MV, now MZ. They always come out with a new improved version. So the reason I wanted to cover this is because as I've gotten more into game development, it's funny that they announced this, because about a week or so ago, I was actually thinking about with our game, I was debating, because I actually have toyed around with the Unity engine myself a little bit. And I also toyed around with the Unreal engine. I said, man, should I just go use the Unity engine? Because the Unity engine has made some really good games, and anyone who's into horror that's ever played SCP Containment knows that was run on the Unity engine. There's a lot of well-known games that have been built on Unity. Combining Unity with the RPG Maker, you get that modern feel with that nostalgic top-down look. And I've looked at some of the samples for it, and it looks chef kiss gorgeous. There are going to be some amazing games coming out when RPG Maker Unity drops. That is a heck of a combination that they're doing. They're building this on top of the Unity engine. That is insane. The character details, I was looking at it on Steam. I was like, yo, if it was available today, I didn't care. I was going to buy it. I was going to buy it because I was like, I like Unity and I love RPG Maker, and the character models, they look way more fleshed out. They're more detailed. The worlds look kind of like photorealistic. So they don't all have to look as, I want to say Pokemon-ish, like classic Pokemon, where it's kind of cartoony. No, these worlds, they just have that good combination of 3D and 2D. And I feel that's going to make life a lot easier for some developers, for sure. Because there's a technique where you use Photoshop to turn some items into pretty much background is, but it brings a little bit more detail and more depth than, having to place them manually in a map. I think the RPG Unity is going to remove the need to do that. I think the Unity engine is going to be able to make it so you can have that look without the extra work. And I think that is amazing. And I know you have the RPG Maker MZ, but I know you've only used it for a little bit. But what was your take on using an RPG Maker engine for the first time?
I thought I go to you for anything technical with game development or recording, podcast, video editing. When I don't know how to do something and I can't find a solid video on it, and usually can direct me fairly easily. But this I felt was very user friendly. I thought I was going to have to come to you like, dude, I can't do this. Help me out here. But it's not. It's so user friendly. And if you just take maybe an hour of your time and just go through the options, go through the settings, just play around a little bit. Nothing, not trying to do it. No goal in sight. You're just trying to learn and mess around with stuff. It's very user friendly. So, I have not used any other types of RPG makers. That's the only one that I've used. But seeing all of these kind of come together with Unity, I look forward to being able to jump in and just start learning how to make games. And one of the biggest things that I saw that I read in the article was they do the coding for you. So a lot of people, that's a big milestone for people, and also a big block for people that want to get into adding or into game development is I don't know how to code. And by removing that, you open the door for so many people that maybe they do have amazing ideas and concepts for an awesome new world that they can bring to everybody, but they don't know how to code. And I think that's really awesome that they're taking that work and those steps out of our way for us. I think it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Especially because Gotcha Games built the RPG Maker to be accessible for anyone who wants to get into game development and release a game without having to know any kind of coding whatsoever. You don't have to know all the C++. You don't have to know all of that. You can go in RPG Maker and they have a pretty in-depth tutorial. And even if that's not in-depth for you enough, there's a whole wiki site dedicated, built by users that break down almost every feature of all the RPG makers as soon as they come out. And then they even give you ideas on how to do creative things like parallax mapping and layering and all of these little nuanced things that help you think outside the box to create amazing games. And with them combining on Unity is already good with mobile games. They already put out there's already a ton of mobile games built on their engine. This means converting your RPG Maker games into mobile games is going to be way easier. That means you can release your games mobile, internet, hopefully one day console, but definitely you'll be able to cover PC, mobile, and I think there's another one in there I'm missing, but it's a package deal. Like I'm thinking it's good. So if you've ever wanted to get into game development, I highly, highly recommend, whether you're advanced or beginner, I really think you should check out RPG Unity. It's supposed to come out this year. They haven't set a date. That's going to bother me because I'm like, please don't come out at the same time the Steam Deck drops, because my wallet's going to be crying. So yeah, RPG Maker Unity, that's going to be amazing for sure. I was thinking, I was like, yo, I think we're going to finish building our game in RPG Maker Unity, honestly.
Yeah, if it's as easy as if it's as easily possible to move everything between, are they meshing them together under Unity, or are they allowing you to basically copy and paste the work from other RPG makers into Unity? Like, how's that working there? Because I'm not sure how that works.
That I'm not entirely sure of, but I know MZ was able to use a lot of assets from the RPG makers before. So I would assume that with Unity, with a lot of people because a lot of people, the beautiful thing about the RPG makers and why they come out with so many different ones, the newer ones don't appeal to veterans of it before. MZ's out, but a lot of people still prefer MX or they still prefer Ace, but the assets still can transfer over to the newer ones. So I assume with Unity, you'd be able to transfer the assets over. It would be amazing if you could copy your entire project folder over to it. But they're still a little quiet on the details. I didn't really get to go into full description on Steam. I was very busy, much captivated by the combination of Unity and RPG Maker. I was like, sold, take my money. But I do feel that it would be an amazing feature if you could just roll your projects over seamlessly into Unity and go for there. The only thing I would see being an issue though, and probably why they won't let that happen, which now that I think about it makes sense. Plugins are third-party sources that have to be built for that engine. So if you have plugins already built into your game from a third-party source that has not built the plugin to operate with the newest version of an RPG Maker, your game will not work. It'll be broken. So I'm assuming you could probably transfer raw files over if all of your assets are specifically from that RPG Maker. But anything external, which to be completely honest, most RPG Maker creators use plugins and third-party assets to improve on the features of the game, because RPG Maker is the canvas. It's the base. It gets you started. But everything else you go out and get yourself. So all the plugins you have, everything else that you've accumulated for your previous RPG Makers, they probably will not roll over. So you probably would have to just build a fresh game in Unite until, and it doesn't take long. I mean, most of the third-party developers out there, they're on it as soon as they build assets for all the RPG Makers. So give them like a month or so, if that, and most of your favorite plugins will probably pop up on.
Oh, I'm sure it'll drop with.
I'm
sure it'll drop with plenty of features, anyways. If it's being hyped up this much, and it's and all the features from what it sounds like are already like, new gen, next level stuff. I'm sure it's going to drop with plenty of options on top of plenty of third parties already on top of it.
Oh,
they're probably already getting ready for Unity.
Yeah. So definitely an amazing thing. So like I said, if you're a game developer thinking about game development or you're already in, definitely check it out. And also be on the lookout for our game when it comes out. If you guys want more details on that, please make sure to go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Gamma Games. All the details for pretty much everything with the podcast and our game development you can find there. And also, if you're watching the video version of this, you can see I'm rocking our amazing Crossroads Collection hoodie. This has been getting me through the renovation times. It's very cozy. It's been my best friend while the house has been getting torn asunder. So I've been wearing this wonderful, comfortable hoodie. So if you guys want to get some merchandise, make sure to check out the gzshop.com. There you can see Warner's is rocking the OG Gamma Games collection, which I strongly recommend you guys go and check out the shop, because some of the merchandise is getting faded out. It's phasing out. So if you want to show how long you've been a supporter, make sure you grab some of that stuff before it phases out, because the Midnight Collection. I think the Midnight Collection is already phased out. I don't know. I got to go check. But we do have a whole new line. The original series collection is just launched. So make sure you go and grab yourself some nifty merchandise for the store. We greatly appreciate that. And as always, thank you so much to our Patreons for your continued support. We love you guys. And thanks to you, we're able to do these episodes every week. So thank you so much for that. Anyway, make sure you guys hit us up on Twitter. Let us know any comments you have on this week's episode. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on Reddit and hit us up on YouTube and your comments down below. We want to know your guys' thoughts, any information you guys may have had that we missed. We want to know. We want to communicate with you guys so that we can bring you the most informative episodes as possible. Anyway, you guys have been amazing. Stay safe out there, and we will catch all of you wonderful people on the next episode. Later, everybody.